Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you?
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want.
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I hope you're all doing great, and I hope you all had a wonderful week. Man, it's been a great week. And, we had such an interesting show last Saturday night with Mark Maychek, a.k.a. Cryptoville. And I saw a couple of people in the chat on Saturday night mentioning Esau. And it was so wild because I had scheduled for the show tonight my buddy, Mr. Justin Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens podcast. I've got him here in the studio tonight. And we're going to be talking about Esau, in addition to his Bigfoot adventures and a whole bunch of other stuff. Giants, Noah from the Bible and his wife. They might have been giants. I think they were giants, actually. So we're going to get into a lot of giant talk tonight. And it's going to be a giant of a show tonight for all of y'all. And so thank you to all my moderators for being here tonight. Thank you to everybody in the chat and for all your support. I love you all. Okay, here we go. Well, if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and check out my social media links, please go over to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my shows, all my social media links, and a list of events on my calendar, including the next event that I have coming up will be up in Orlando, Florida, or down in Orlando for me. Orlando, Florida. I will be speaking at the Super Soldier Activation Conference. That's next week. Please get your tickets, book your rooms. It's going to be a fantastic event. We're going to be diving into the Super Soldier programs on that one. I'm going to be going over some of my remote viewing data. I'm going to be talking about cryptids, of course. But time travel, some of the SSP data that I've gotten in a bunch of these targets, and off-world living, and including all the slavery that I've picked up on off-planet with humans and humanoids and stuff like that. So y'all come see me at that. And also, I will be at the Molina Bigfoot Festival. That's coming up on November the 8th down in Molina, Georgia. If y'all want to see one of the best small-town Bigfoot festivals, come see me down there. And I also have 2 UFO conferences that I'll be at as well. It's all on my website. Also, you can support my work by going over to my Patreon if you guys would like to. It's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And also I have a shop on Etsy, War Woman Goods. Thank y'all so much for all your support. It means the world to me. Okay, well, let's get to our show tonight because, gosh, I was just talking with Doc backstage. We have so many amazing topics, y'all, to get into tonight. So tonight we have Justin Doc Brown, call him Doc, of Prometheus Lens podcast. We're going to be talking about his Bigfoot adventures. We actually got to meet up back in May at Operation Smoke. And of course, we've had Doc on the show before with our crew that went out on that operation. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight up in East Tennessee. But we're going to talk about that and get into the story of Esau. He has written a book about Esau, which was a possible Bigfoot or wild man in the Bible. And his podcast, Prometheus Lens podcast, examines everything from creation, evolution, paranormal, all the way to conspiracy theories. And it's definitely a hero's journey. You guys, please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Doc. Hey, Doc.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for being here. It's so good to have you back.
Oh, yeah. It's good to be back. Last time we had a gaggle of people.
We did. We had a full screen. We couldn't have fit anybody else on that screen when I had you on.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
It was the dysfunctional Brady Bunch crew right there. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, we went up to East Tennessee and did some Bigfooting. What did you think about that? Was that your first Bigfoot excursion?
It was my first overnight. I'd went with Harley a couple times at that same place, but we went during the day, and he showed me around and showed me some things. And of course, we seen some of the X's and some of the little teepee fixtures and some footprints and stuff. Some pretty cool stuff during the day. But that was my first time going there overnight and camped out for the weekend. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was an interesting experience to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Well, you actually had your camera out there. You were videoing some footage out there, and you had a really great video you put together of all that, like a little documentary series, I guess. I don't know what you call it, but that was pretty impressive. You're really good at making documentaries.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I got some great footage. It's just piecing it all together and having the time to do it. So I'm slowly still piecing that thing together.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, you guys, I didn't get to go out there on Saturday night with y'all, but you guys had some pretty intense, experiences out there, and thank goodness you got it all documented. But I mean, were you ever worried? It was something that seemed to run up in the camp with you guys.
Yeah, I had some weary moments, just kind of like, oh gosh, and all the guys that we were setting up that bait trap, and we was all gathered around it, spread out probably 60 yards apiece in a circle around it. We had one group that just kept turning their lights on and off, and finally they come across the radio. They was like, we're freaking the hell out. We're hearing stuff all around us. It feels like someone's standing right over top of us, and just everybody's scared. We're getting out of here. I was like, oh my God, what's going on down there? But it was later when we got back, we were sitting around the fire, and I pulled out the camera, and we were talking about, what we'd seen for the weekend, and people telling their experiences. And I was doing some one-on-ones, telling people to tell me their Bigfoot encounters and stories and stuff. And while I was interviewing Kevin, everything just popped off. Kevin was in the middle of telling one of his stories, and all of a sudden we just heard this holler, and I caught it all on the film. And Kevin's even like looking up, like, we're hearing some strange noises right now. And then it done it again. It done it like 8 or 9 times in a row, and caught it all on camera. And it was wild, because it was like after the second one, you could see everybody on the camera kind of gathering around, and you just heard all the guns and you heard Harley, that wasn't a effing deer, boys. And they took off through the woods trying to find it, and they seen some orbs and all kind of crazy stuff, trying to figure out where this sound was coming from. So yeah, everything really kind of popped off Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that place was wild. Really, it's the first thing that I noticed when I pulled in down there. It was like a big old cemetery, an old cemetery, and Harley talked about the dogman sightings around there, and the Bigfoots. And I gotta tell you, I was impressed. I was definitely impressed with that place, and I've been doing Bigfoot research for a long time. And so yeah, I was super stoked that he actually took us out there to that. I don't normally take groups of people out to a lot of my our research areas and stuff, and so I was super grateful for that he had us out there. And we had some really interesting experiences. I felt like I was being watched the whole time I was out there. You can ask Drewski. I was like not comfortable going out to straying away too far late at night from everybody, and stuff like that. If you know what I mean. It was pouring down rain actually that night that I was there. But
that was Friday night.
Yeah, it was Friday night.
Yeah, I went back for that. I hung out all day Friday, but I went back because I had an interview that night. So then I came back Saturday and stayed Saturday through Sunday.
Yeah, we just missed each other. We got to meet each other and hang out. So.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah, we got some more stuff planned with that crew, and yeah, should be fun. Undisclosed locations, undisclosed times. You'll never know. You'll never know till we get done, when we get out of the field. But but yeah, that's awesome, and everybody made it out alive. That's always good. And we had some newbies out there as well, who may have never had a real Bigfoot experience until that. I mean, that's actually pretty special, going out there, not going Bigfooting before, and then having all that activity the first time you go. like
Yeah,
Riley.
I think Harley's
know?
life was changed
Yeah.
after that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of like what got me into the Bigfooting. Um, I guess I kind of got hooked into it right off the bat because the first time I ever went Bigfooting, I had so much activity out there. As a team, we had so much activity. I couldn't walk away from it. After that weekend, I was like, it got its claws in me. You know what I mean? It's like I needed more. I wanted to go explore more after that
It does.
because I knew it was
It
real.
honestly just puts some excitement, back in
Yeah.
your life. It's like as adults, we get caught a lot of times in our little rat wheel of just going to work, paying our bills, coming back home. It's just, Groundhog Day, like that movie, all over again. Same stuff every single day. So when you actually get to go on an adventure and get some excitement, man, it reminds you that you're alive. So it's like, yeah, it's very addicting feeling.
It is. I remember saying that on last Saturday. I had my buddy Mark Maychek, aka Cryptoville, was here with me, and we were talking about. We got in a bunch of different conversations that night, but I did tell the audience, if you need to like change up your energy or like, keep some zest in your life, do something that scares the hell out of you at least once a year. Just do it once a year, and keep your life spicy and exciting, and it can change your life. Okay, but don't do anything too dangerous if you don't want to. Okay. Mark was like, "Yeah, jump out of an airplane." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." But going Bigfooting, man, it's exhilarating. It's definitely exhilarating.
It's a good excuse too, just to go camping.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I like to do too. Just get out in the woods and go searching for these wild men and stuff. And okay, so before you ever even went out with Harley and wanted to get out in the woods and go explore Bigfoot, were you looking into Esau? I mean, how did you get interested in the Bigfoot phenomenon to begin with?
Uh, Honestly, it was just a joke, a catty joke amongst friends. I knew of Bigfoot, and but I just kind of had the 30,000 foot view. I knew uh, about the what was I can't think of the name now. The people in this audience is going to slaughter me. Luke, what was its name? Patterson Gimlin.
Oh, Patty.
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 I knew about the Patty video and heard some experiences and stuff like that, but I wasn't what you would call a Bigfoot enthusiast. I didn't really listen to all the podcasts and read all the literature. I just kind of had a general overview. But I was talking with Trey Smith from God in a Nutshell on a show, and I had one of my buddies there, Steven. He is what you would call a Bigfoot enthusiast. And he's like, "You guys are from East Tennessee. That's Bigfoot country. Next time I'm down that way, I'll holler at you guys and we'll go Bigfoot hunting and we'll film it." And I was like, "Yeah, man, come on down." And it was weird, just out of nowhere, Genesis 25:25 popped into my head. For those that's unfamiliar with that, it says the first one came out red, covered in hair from head to toe, like a hairy cloak. And I'd heard this story of this man named Esau majority of my life. I grew up in church since I was 5, 6 years old, but I'd never looked at it like that. And then for some reason that day, it's like, man, that sounds pretty squatchy to me.
Squatchy.
So then I said to Trey, I said, "Well, what about Esau?" He just kind of looked at me like he was confused. And I'm like, "Bigfoot, right? I mean, do you think maybe he was the first documented Bigfoot? It says that he was covered in hair, And he was like, "Yeah, you may be onto something." He said, "He was definitely a hairy dude, that's for sure." And it was like maybe a week or two later, I had Gary Wayne on the show, and we were going over the Epic of Gilgamesh and bumped into this guy named Enkidu, covered in hair from head to toe, also known as the Mighty Hunter, just like Esau. And I'm like, here's another one of these Sasquatch looking dudes. And it's just one thing led to another. I kept finding all these hairy people like in ancient Mesopotamia and in the Bible. And I was like, man, I have to search this out. So then it sent me on a 2-year rabbit trail.
Oh my gosh. Actually, I've been studying wild men for a while, and we have lots of reports of wild men and giants. Okay. I know it's almost like what I've noticed is, I'm going to say modern day. Okay. Even though it's like the 1800s and 1900s, like modern day sightings of some people would consider some of these beings that they were reporting in newspapers and stuff, newspaper clippings, these wild men, some of them were Bigfoots, and other times there were giants. And some of the stories get really kind of, there's like a gray area there. Like, let's say like Sukaloo up in Judaculla, up in North Carolina. A lot of times that story sounds like a Bigfoot, but to me it sounds like a giant human. And I think there may be like some kind of weird mix. Like, I don't know, it's like a gray area because half the people think it's a giant, half the people think it's a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So
I think they're one and the same. I think it's, tomato.
Yeah.
It's all on the person who sees it and what they decide to call it. If you looked do all the research that I'd done, I think if any person of the ancient Levant, when you're reading the Bible, there's lots of giants in your Bible, but I believe what we call today a Sasquatch, the ancients would have just called a feral giant, because as I got to reading this and studying on this guy, thanks to people like Gary Wayne that actually nerded out and went through the genealogies of the Bible, because that's something a lot of people look over because it's boring. This one begot this one and lived 120 years and went to be with his relatives. So, but he got to digging and found out that because Esau had 3 wives, but 2 of those 3 wives were from Nephilim giant clans, from the Horites and the Hivites. And one of his father-in-laws was named Seir. And when you go into the etymology of that word means hairy. So his father-in-law's name was Harry, and he reigned from the land of Mount Seir. So even the mountain was named Hairy Mountain after him, and they were known giants. So here you have this hairy giant, his daughters marrying and interbreeding with this hairy quote unquote man named Esau, and they bred. So you could easily assume that there would be some strange pups from that union.
Pups.
But when you go down through that genealogical line, you find that from the loins of Esau into these giant clans bursts Amalek, who in turn bursts the Amalekite race. And once again, you go into the etymology of that name. That means the blood lickers.
Oh my. Ew. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. Oh my gosh. I'm thinking too, bringing it back up to modern day again, if you want to call it modern day, talking about, I brought up Sukaloo a while ago, and that was some people, like I said, some say a Sasquatch and others say that was a giant human. And, he was said to have had a human girlfriend. Okay. Human girlfriend. And it's kind of common to hear about giants. Let's see, even like the redheaded giants here, like the Lovelock cave giants out in Nevada, for instance, taking, and I think those were humans, but having like giant humans, kind of, not Sasquatch. Okay, is what I'm trying to say here, but having human regular size, like our regular size. I think we're the little people, by the way, but having a female human girlfriend, or taking them in, or even kidnapping. Sasquatch and giants have been known to kidnap women and children, and to procreate with them in the modern day, as in the last 200 years.
Oh yeah,
So,
there's all kinds of legends, like from the Solomon Islands, about giants and raiding the villages and taking the women and breeding with them, and then they come back pregnant and have this hairy baby and things like that, even to this day.
gosh. Wow. Yeah. It's kind of a strange topic to kind of get into too, with humans interbreeding with Sasquatch. And, we have different types of Sasquatch, actually. And as you're talking about that, I was thinking about this chart that we have here. I think there's some better charts out there, but this is one of them. And the type 4, it's actually type 4. 4 is at the top up there. And that would be like the Neanderthal type of Bigfoots, and ones that look more human. They're like the wild man types of Sasquatch. And there's been a lot of those throughout history. And my friend M.K. Davis, he was on the show about 3 weeks ago. And he's done a lot of research, especially on the Patterson Gimlin film and Patty. And I've had the privilege of seeing him live give a presentation on that. And he talks about how Patty could have been a result, like that type 4 is a result of like some kind of more primate like Sasquatch interbreeding with a human, basically. And that's the result of that type of Bigfoot or wild man.
Yeah. And nothing news under the sun. That's something that even from like the biblical point of view was Genesis 6. The sons of God came down and bred with the daughters of men and made Nephilim giants. So you're corrupting the DNA, the genome of God's image. And so you get these mutations, and they're random, I think. Sometimes I think that's why we see so much crazy stuff. It's like we have elongated skulls. We have hairy, quote unquote, men. We have giants. Just all this, craziness. I think it's because you just have this rogue gene inserted into the human genome, and it just manifests in different ways. I even talk about it kind of half-heartedly in the book. I believe it kind of rings true to Michael J. Fox and Teen Wolf. You remember that scene where he's been slowly changing into this werewolf, but he splashes water on his face and does all this stuff to stop the transition. But this one time, it was a full moon, and he started changing, and he couldn't stop it. And he was in the bathroom. You remember all that hair sprouted out, his nails glued along. He's like, "Geez, Louise!" And his dad starts beating on the door. He's like, "Let me in, son." He's like, "No, Dad, you don't want to see me right now." And he's like, "Yeah, son, open the door. There's nothing you could do that make me not love you." And he opens the door, and he's expecting his dad to freak out, but then there's his dad standing there fully wolfed out too.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, "Dad, you knew this whole time and you didn't tell me?" And he's like, "Son, this type of thing skips generations sometimes." He said, "We were hoping it just skipped you." I think that was kind of a telltale right there. I think there's a lot of truth in that.
A werewolf coming of age story. That's wild. That was a great movie. Yeah, I was bringing up the other day. I brought up the Michael Jackson scene in Thriller where he turns into a werewolf, and if you examine that, he's actually a werecat. It's more like a cat, not a wolf that he turns into. So I don't know. I love werewolves, stories about them. I don't want to meet one. I don't know. I actually have werewolves in the chat right now, I think. Okay, I have been. Seriously, I've been contacted by some people who are really awesome folks, and they claim that they transform, and they watch my shows. They watch my shows. So shout out to all the werewolves in the chat tonight, and all you other.
I'm halfway there.
Yeah, talking about hairy men. I'm just kidding. Yeah, there's I think it's kind of cool. We have a very diverse audience, Doc. Okay.
But, I love diverse. It takes many different people to make the world go round. Like my old man used to say, it's spinning.
Exactly. I love it, man. But wow. Yeah, I need to go back and rewatch Teen Wolf. That's a great movie, man. They put a lot of, I'm going to say soft disclosure in a lot of these old movies, even about, I hate to bring up vampires. We talk about vampires occasionally here on the channel. And it just seems like from the zombies to the vampires to the werewolves, all the things that we've been told were not real. They're just a bunch of fantasy. It's actually kind of real. Okay. And ETs and UFOs, Bigfoot, all the things that have been in movies for a long time. It's real. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think Hollywood just kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They fantasticalize these so much to where when we hear it, we immediately disconnect and say, "Oh, that's fake. That's fantasy." But these entities and these creatures are real. But I think Hollywood and some of these other people have just, took them so far into fantasy land that when we hear them now, we think they're fake and don't even entertain the idea. Even like vampires you mentioned, they're kind of referenced in the Bible, I think. Even like I talked about these Amalekites, their name means the blood lickers. Yeah, because they drank blood. And when you get to it's in Exodus when God's people was coming out of Egypt, they're roaming in the wilderness, and the first tribe of people that they encounter is these Amalekites. And during this wilderness wanderings, that's when God gives them all their laws. Do not do this, do not do that. So you don't get a rule, a law, or regulation unless someone is obviously breaking these already or doing these acts. So I think it shows the actions of the people that they were interacting with. And it's these Amalekites. So when you look at some of those laws, what are some of them? It says, no longer will you sacrifice to hairy goat demons.
Oh,
Okay. So Esau is hairy man married into these giant clans that were known for their hairiness. I think that might be considered them a hairy goat demon.
oh my
It says, do
gosh.
not drink the blood. The life is in the blood. Their name means blood lickers. We know they were drinking the blood. That's very vampiristic.
Mhm,
And then it says, no longer will you seek necromancers or sorcerers.
mhm.
When you go through a lot of the ancient writings, Rashi, a medieval rabbi, talked about they were known sorcerers and shape shifters, is what he says in his writings.
Oh my gosh. Vampires,
So,
shapeshifters.
yeah. And then you get into Isaiah, it talks about the satyrs. When you get into the Septuagint, it says that the satyrs will dance in the wilderness and in the desolate cities. And then no longer will you pass your children through the fires of Molech. So here you have these Sasquatch looking feral giant clan that were known sorcerers drinking the blood like vampires. And they were known sorcerers and shapeshifters. And that's why when it comes to the Amalekites, when you get to the Bible, when they're cleansing the land of these hybrid races, the Amalekites is the only group that it adds a caveat. It says, kill every man, woman, and child. But it says, and animal when it comes to the Amalekites, because they were known shapeshifters. And the legend is that they would shapeshift into animals to evade capture. So God was telling these people, even kill the animals. I don't want any of them to escape.
Man, wow. Okay, so that's pretty deep right there because we talk about shapeshifters a lot. We talk about dogmen versus werewolves. We talk about even Bigfoots and stuff, and like what's really going on out there. We're encountering things that are disappearing before our eyes, shape shifting. Like I've taken reports of squirrels. Two people see a squirrel, and the two people behind them saw a 7-foot tall Bigfoot. The people in the front saw a 7-inch tall squirrel. Okay, things we're talking about maybe possible shapeshifters and stuff going on out there, and I brought up that conversation I had with Mark Maychak last weekend, and we were talking about the possibility of a lot of these creatures that we're seeing out there, not all of them, but some of them actually being demonic, demonic forces, some sort of demonic entity, basically, or, demonic entities taking over the bodies of Bigfoot or, or dogmen or whatever. We're specifically talking about the LBL, the Land Between the Lakes up in Kentucky, because there's what I'm learning and what I'm finding out through my research, my boots on the ground research and other, having interviews and stuff and doing my historical research. A lot of the places where we're having a lot of these cryptid sightings, Bigfoot, dogman, and other, are places where there's been a lot of bloodshed. And you're talking about
vampire cults, a lot of vampire cults up there.
Mm-hmm. Vampire cults at the LBL and a place like battlefields, like Civil War, Revolutionary War battlefields here across the U.S., specifically in the South. Okay, because I do most of my research down in the South, United States. But a lot of places where we're kind of led to are places where there's been a lot of bloodshed, and maybe I don't know if it's like portals have opened there or what. There's some sort of, I'm not going to say it's all demonic, okay,
it's like
but
cursings of the land.
land.
Then all of our blood has frequency vibrations, and I even talked about it in the book. Don't quote me on where I got it from. It's in there though. But these certain scientists did research on blood. And they were saying that it's got its own frequency, and that it's specific to each person, like a fingerprint. And in the Bible, when Cain kills Abel, what does God say? He says, "What have thou done? Thy brother's blood cries out from the ground." So it's like he could hear, the vibrations, the frequency of the blood that was spilt on the ground. And even when it talks about when he kills his brother, it says that the ground opened up its mouth to receive the blood. So it's kind of like a sacrificial fertility rite, pouring the blood on the ground, hoping to bless the crops of Cain, because Cain's crops were not blessed by God. So therefore, I think he reached out to another God that promised to bless him by the shedding of blood and sacrificing to him.
Oh, wow. Okay, what about, I'd mentioned we were up there where that cemetery was. Okay, and that's oftentimes, I've talked about this plenty of times, where a lot of the dogman sightings we're getting are around cemeteries and Indian burial mounds. Okay, or just mounds, earthen mounds, burial mounds. What if there is a vibration? I've actually been told this by some friends of mine. William Nighthawk, actually, with the Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast. He's a Lakota medicine man. He has mentioned that there's a frequency that's put off potentially at some of these cemeteries, places where people are buried. I mean, I'm not saying there's blood and stuff, but I mean, it is. I mean, they say that like a dead body even will put off some kind of a frequency, and they're attracted to that. I've even got a video. I had Colleen Norris on the show about a year or so ago, and she is the Dogman Bigfoot investigator from up in Ohio, who actually has that video of the grave digging Dogman in Ohio. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No.
But these two teenage girls were working at a restaurant in Ohio. Okay, and they took she called it their supper break, and they drove through a cemetery. And these two girls just happened to be good friends with her daughter. And they knew that Colleen was a cryptid investigator and researcher. So they ended up giving her this video the next day. So she owns this video. But they were driving through a cemetery, and one of the girls pulled her cell phone out and started recording, because she saw what she thought was, they thought was a dirty lady, a dirty woman, digging into a cemetery plot. And it had long arms, and it was all black, and you could see the pointed ears on top of its head. And it was digging frantically, like it was, if it was a woman, it was a mentally disturbed woman for sure. Okay. And, but they were videoing this thing, and it was kind of beside a mausoleum. It turns out to me, it looked like a dog man. To most people, it looks like more like a dog man or a creature like a werewolf. And, they ended up leaving. They didn't stop. Thank gosh. They didn't stop. But this thing was on its knees digging a hole frantically into the cemetery plot. And so Colleen got this video. She immediately went over there. I think this was on a Friday. And she said that there was a hole. She measured the hole. You could see the knee imprints where the knee was. And she measured the hole, and it was too long for like a human to have put his arms down. And she did her research on it. She went back on Saturday. The hole was still there. She went back on Monday. The hole had been covered up, and there were flowers planted on top, like fake flowers, like from a funeral. Turns out that hole, the plot right there, was actually empty. There were no bodies. It was supposed to be for cremains. And Colleen's friend was buried right beside it, and that hole was actually for his wife, who was still living. And not the hole, but that plot was for his wife. That was where she would be buried one day when her cremains will go there. And but that thing was just digging, and it was interesting because she actually went to the cemetery workers, like to the office, and asked what had happened. She said, I saw this hole. Like, what is it? And they said, oh, it was just an animal. It happens all the time out there.
Happens all the time, huh?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's just an animal, is what they said. But see, multiple dogmen had been spotted in that area, and it seemed as though potentially that was definitely not the first time that had happened there before. But it just kind of leads you to like questioning, what are these dogmen doing in these cemeteries? What was it digging for? And I think maybe did it have something to do with the blood? I mean, so many reports of dogmen and Bigfoots, but mostly dogmen are around cemeteries.
Yeah, might have been like a meal.
Could have been. Well, it was empty though. You'd think that like a dogman would be able to smell that there's nothing down there in that hole. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we know dogs. I mean, if it is a dog man, dogs are prone to hide snacks and bones and stuff. They'll dig a hole, but they bury it back. So this person, this dog man or whatever, was digging a hole and just leaving it. That's pretty strange.
Yeah, it's like maybe it was
looking. It was looking for its bone that it placed somewhere in there.
Yes.
Somebody's leg.
Somebody's leg. I mean, we've tried to figure out like what on earth could it have been digging for. I mean, and my friend Eric came on the show and he was like, well, maybe it was looking for a portal key stuff. And that gets, I like to get super woo, as they call it. And because you have to think outside the box here. You really have to think outside the box sometimes. It may be something as simple as it had buried a bone there literally. Or it could be something way more complex than that as well. But it's interesting, just going with the blood aspect of it. It seems like there's more and more shape-shifting cryptids today out here than, and I'm not just in the woo camp. I'm also in the flesh and bone camp as well, Doc. Okay, so I know just from my research, they're flesh and bone, Bigfoots, dogmen, but there's also something else going on with them as well, some kind of X factor. We don't know what it is.
Yeah, and that's something like with a lot of Harley stuff at that site that we went to. You see physical things like bent trees and little teepees and even footprints and stuff, large footprints. So you do get some physicality. But a lot of his pictures and videos, they kind of look shadowy figured. They look kind of almost like apparitions almost. And of course, with all the woo, you talked about too, you get orbs, you get UFOs phasing in and out of reality, infrasound, all this kind of stuff too. And one of the things that I throw out as like a theory is, according to the Book of Enoch, it says that these hybrid races that were created from these sons of God, even the Native Americans talked about it. They called them the star people. They come from the heavens and took the women and bred with them. But the Book of Enoch says that where they were a hybrid race, they weren't fully from heaven, weren't fully from the earth. So therefore, when they died, their spirit had nowhere to rest, so that they would be cursed to wander the earth and torment mankind until the end of days. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, I'm like, if what I'm saying is right, and you had these feral giants, they were a hybrid race. They were, Nephilimic. And so if we go to what the Book of Enoch says, then their spirits would remain to torment mankind. And if they were these hairy humanoid giants covered in hair, like what we call a Bigfoot today, and also, like I said, the Amalekites, they were known shapeshifters, they were known sorcerers, so they already had some magic capabilities and doing all this kind of stuff, drinking the blood. So would it be out of the question to assume that if the Book of Enoch is right, and when they die, their spirits remain to torment mankind, would they not want to choose a familiar form? Man. I don't think that's too far-fetched.
No, it's not. And I'm as you're saying that, I'm thinking of all of our Hollywood elite. No shade to the Hollywood elite. Listen, I know some of them, not many, but Hollywood elite and the political elite. I guess you call it the elite with a little e. I like to say, but and this is all for entertainment purposes only tonight, y'all. Okay, this is definitely for entertainment purposes only. But I have taken some deep dives down the rabbit holes of celebrities cloning, or recycled celebrities, and people in the public, basically people in public figures, having doppelgangers, being cloned, doing these weird rituals. And we all know about what I like to call the Google Chrome, but it starts with the A, rhymes with that kind of stuff, with the drinking of the blood and all these missing children, missing people. My big soapbox I stand on is where are all these missing people going in our national parks? I mean, we're talking about we have just hundreds of thousands of people going missing every year just in the United States alone. And it seems as though some of those people are potentially being harvested, kidnapped, taken, harvested for the blood. I've had whistleblowers on my show from have been part of the secret space programs who whistleblow about the deep underground military bases and the operations they have going on down there where there's reptilian involvement. They're feeding reptilians humans and stuff. So could that be connected to this? The blood lickers, and maybe it's all different, but some of the same as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's multiple moving pieces and components to it. Especially when you look at the aliens and the reptilians and all that. I think it's just the same story repeated over and over throughout time. It's just they kind of changed the names. They changed their appearance to suit the generation. That way they would be better accepted. To the Native Americans, they come as star people because they were worshiping celestial things. When you go to the Middle East, they were the Anunnaki. They came down from the heavens and taught them the sacred sciences and all this stuff. So the book of Genesis talks about the Genesis 6, the fallen angels came down, bred with women, made hybrid races, gave them knowledge so bad that they corrupted the gene pool so bad that God had to wipe the world out with a flood and hit the reset button. So I think it's the same thing. It's just retold, spun just a little bit to the liking of the generation and people of the time, so they'll better accept it. But I do think there's some physicality also. I tell people I hate when people speak in absolutes because we cannot speak in absolutes. There's too many unknowns. So it's not this, it's not that. It's usually in the middle. It's this and that. I think there is some flesh and blood left. So whether they're, a remnant from ancient times that lived in these cave systems, I think it's a high possibility. And when people want to say, if there was something like that, we would have found it by now. We would have captured one, we'd have killed one, or we would have found the bones. I tell people, look at the panda. The panda is not a smart animal. It's a very dumb animal.
Oh, no.
But people seem to forget we've only discovered that animal in the past 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
But there was legends and mythology and lore about these black and white bears that roamed the wilderness of China. But everybody said, "Oh, it's like Bigfoot. That ain't real. That's fake. If it was real, we'd have found one by now. If it was real, we would have killed one by now." It said the same things that we say about Bigfoot and giants and stuff today. But it took them thousands and thousands of years before they finally captured this thing. That's a dumb animal. So imagine if you had a hairy humanoid type creature that was the ultimate hunter with intelligence and traveled through the cave systems under our feet. I don't think it's very far-fetched to say that it's evade capture. I mean, just compare it to the panda. It took thousands and thousands of years for us to finally catch one of those. And they're dumb.
I had no idea that they were dumb. I did not know. I've seen some pandas at the Atlanta Zoo. They had some pandas that came over from China, and they were super cute. They look cuddly, but you're not supposed to touch them, I guess. Okay, so, but that's a good point. Okay,
I think that's the deal we had with the Kandahar giant. Because when you get that story, what happens? This hairy feral giant with red hair, just like Esau's described, from the same region that Esau comes from. Yeah, he comes out of this cave system and attacks these soldiers. I think that's exactly what I was just talking about. I mean, that's a case in point right there. And even that spear in that picture, I got pictures on my YouTube and on some videos, but I had Chief Joseph Riverwind on my program. And in Michigan, he found a Nephilim lance. So how he's got this long pole, and at the end is this huge lance. And the soldiers talked about it was so long that he basically impaled like 2 soldiers on this blade and was holding them up in the air. And that's when they told him, said, shoot it in the face, shoot it in the face. and they basically decapitated the thing. But Joseph has one of those Nephilim lances, and it's made out of copper and iron, so it's like a bronze spear, but it's like this long, and it's got the tang for you to attach to a pole, and just the spearhead itself weighs like over 26 or 28 pounds. I've held it. It's heavy. It would take a giant of a man to wield this thing, and it would have to be on like a 8 to 10 foot long pole. Ain't no regular size human gonna be wielding that thing, and it matches the description perfectly of this Kandahar giant's weapon.
Oh my God, it's like a power pole with a spear at the end.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. I actually had covered that. I was tasked with a remote viewing target of the Giant of Kandahar, and the data included getting samples for cloning purposes, which was wild. So the story that we're told about the Kandahar Giant, that we've kind of been told is like, oh, they were just on some kind of mission going through there. I think that it's kind of true, but I think there's a lot of things they're leaving out about that. I do believe it did happen. I think that military was sent in to go obtain a dead body, basically, of one of these giants to take back for cloning, of all things, and which is quite scary. Wondering, like, why would we need to clone giants? Oh, yeah, they weaponize everything. Okay, why wouldn't they clone a giant out of there? And after I did that show, I actually had a gentleman that contacted me who told me that his son, I believe he said his son, was part of that mission, actually, and my data was correct about that from what he had been told.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
Which I've done a screen share. I found one of the images of that spear.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I mean,
Very
check that
cool.
thing out.
That thing's huge.
Yeah. And they even cut a piece of the end off. He said, I hated to do it, but he wanted to have the metallurgy tested. And that copper tested like 98.8% pure.
Wow.
So, and the metal tested to be from the Levant.
Oh,
so the copper being 98.8% pure, found near the Michigan Lake system down there at the Isle Royale, where all those copper mines are found, those ancient copper mines. That's the purest copper in the world. So from that testing they done, it has the copper from Michigan, but the metal from the Levant.
Oh my God.
So I think it proves that these giants that we're talking about sailed over into the Michigan Lake area, mined this copper, and then used it to make these giant weapons.
Oh my gosh! Imagine how many more there could be of that.
Yeah.
And has the person who owns that item right there, have they been approached by the Smithsonian by chance?
I don't know, but if they had, he would have waved his gun at them and run them off. He's in the know
Good for him.
Of the Smithsonian, because he's a Indian chief, so he's really hip to the giants and all the stuff that the Smithsonian does. So he would have definitely waved a gun in their face and run them off.
Good. You know what? We need more people like him around, actually. And I have a friend who maybe he's in possession. Him and his friends have at least one giant skeleton out of the lake bed. Out at Lovelock, at the Lovelock Cave area. I guess it's a dried lake bed at this point, but they were finding some skeletons back then. And he assured me that there are private collectors who do have some of these skeletons, the giant skeletons, put away in private collections, let's just say.
No, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And one thing too, when you look at a lot of the Bigfoot depictions and stuff like that, a lot of times they have like this, elongated head. Have you noticed that these high bridges and kind of sloping back? It looks a lot like this guy.
Oh yeah, you got a skull with an elongated head. Oh, that's so cool.
And I got all my fringy friends that signed it, but don't that look a lot like
like a
these
Bigfoot.
depictions of the Bigfoot? Yeah.
It
And
does.
and one thing too, it kind of backs up the Lovelock Cave stuff is L.A. Marzulli is one of the few people that's went down to Peru and studied these things extensively. They've done castings and moldings. They've measured everything, done DNA samples, and it proves to be it's split like a 30-60, 30% European DNA and then like 60% from the Levant. So it shows these come from that area. But one of the doctors that they brought was an optometrist, and these eye orbits, when he measured them, he said they're 25 to 30% larger. He said, so we can easily conclude that if the eye orbits were 20 to 30% larger, that the eyes were, and that the pupils were also. And he said, so it's my, estimation just by looking at these eye orbits. He said that it was a predatory type creature, a hybrid creature, because owls and other nighttime predatory animals have the 25 to 30% larger eye sockets for night vision. So he says, I think that these guys had night vision. So it kind of backs up all the legends of the Native Americans and even the Kandahar giant, that these beings love the caves. They love being in the dark because they can see in the dark.
Oh, that explains a lot right there then.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So it's all about the eyes. They were adaptable to being in the dark and seeing. I was just talking the other day about the contact lenses. You can get like the technology now to see in the dark when it comes to like contact lenses and stuff.
Yeah, that's insane.
Isn't that wild? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm ready for that. Okay, like I'm ready for the FLIR, night vision contacts for when I'm out doing my cryptid research. But then they're talking about even contacts where you can see interdimensional beings and stuff. And I'm like, well, I occasionally could put those on, I guess. But I don't want to know, honestly, what all's around us from the interdimensional standpoint. I heard about the Dicyan and Digoggle episode in Vietnam with those soldiers that were like gunners on the back of helicopters. And they had those Dicyan and Digoggles on, and they were shooting at things that nobody else could see. Like they were calling them demons. Were flying up next to their helicopters. And they were seeing what looked like hell through those goggles in real time.
No, thank you. No, thank
you. Good. Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see all that. Okay.
Well, no, that might be one of those once a year things that you were talking about at the beginning of the show, just to remind yourself you're alive. Do something once a year that scares the hell out of you.
I can do it once a year, not on Halloween. Okay. Or I don't know. I mean, that just sounds wild. That's a good point. Once a year. I do it once a year for about 5 minutes. I've had enough. I've seen enough here. But
you have one of those creatures come up behind you while you're molding some clay pots, just like ghosts, it's sitting there helping you make some vases.
Oh my God. Yes, that is creepy. That's very creepy. Oh my gosh.
I use that in the Bible, that story of the witch of Endor. That's something that comes up a lot, like in podcasts and stuff that I do when they talk about, witches and necromancers and stuff. That's one of the few accounts in the Bible. But when Samuel actually shows up, she freaks out. And not only is she freaked out because she sees Samuel, but she's also freaked out because she's realized if that's Samuel, then this guy is the king. And he's outlawed what I'm doing and threatened us with death. So she was like doubly scared. But I tell people that incident reminds me of Whoopi Goldberg in that movie Ghosts. She was a con artist and made all this, crap up. But then when one actually showed up, remember, it scared the hell out of her. She was tearing the walls down in that place.
Yeah. That's actually a good movie. That's a really good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while since I watched that, but interesting. Yeah. A lot of the movies they have today do have a lot of biblical connotations to them and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, there's nothing new under the sun at this point.
No. Even like Game of Thrones, I tell people that they love that show so much. I mean, that's the basis of the biblical narrative, but it's just a lot of people miss it because, this is an ancient text written to ancient people, and thousands of years later, we're trying to read it, and a lot of the stuff's lost to us because they wasn't thinking that far ahead. They wasn't thinking about us thousands of years reading this text. So there's a lot of stuff that's left to assumption, and it's lost to us because we're not reading the other writings and know the legends and lore and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the Bible talks about in like the Tower of Babel. A lot of people think that's just an incident where they built a tall tower and he divided the languages. Well, I mean, that's true, but when you go into Deuteronomy 32 verse 8, it gives a little more context to that story, and it says that not only were the tongues divided, the nations were divided amongst the B'nai Ha Elohim, the sons of God. And these sons of God rebelled and ruled unjustly. And Psalms 82 says, and it's kind of like a condemnation to his sons, the angelic host that rebelled, and said, how long will you rule unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? You desire to live an eternal life, but you shall die and fall like any prince. So that's the whole Game of Thrones. That's what we see playing out today. All these demonic spirits and stuff whispering in the ears of the world leaders, pulling the strings from the darkness. And that's why the world's in such chaos like it is. And they fight amongst each other too. It's all about, it's a spiritual game of risk over dominion of the earth, and all that stuff's in the Bible. It's Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I love Game of Thrones. Listen, I actually even dressed up like the Mother of Dragons on Halloween last year. Okay, I had a dragon on my shoulder for my Halloween night show, and I love Game of Thrones. The White Walkers, and it actually does also relate to a lot of the cryptids we have here. The White Walkers actually are like Wendigos kind of too.
Mm-hmm.
So I love making little connections with all of that, and yeah, it's so weird how it is playing out in modern day as well. As a matter of fact, talking about like the occult and occult practices and things like that in our everyday lives. And I did a show on the Hoover Dam last week. Okay, the Hoover Dam, and somehow we got into the conversation of like a space elevator. And someone in the chat had mentioned the Tower of Babel, that being like part of the Tower of Babel, and this is like it's like I want to say like a rope, but it's some kind of contraption that it's anchored on Earth and it goes into outer space, basically. And it's like a tether, something that's like tethered to the Earth. And they can send people and supplies and everything up and down into space through this tether. They call it the space elevator. And
Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder, that's right. Yeah.
What's cool too is about the Hoover Dam that I'd found out a while back, which it ain't there anymore, but they done some kind of reconstruction or something like that. But down there at the bottom, they used to have like this angelic looking statue with its wings all pointed up and all this kind of stuff down there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people don't realize, but that was a celestial timestamp, because the day that they dedicated that, the shadows of the wings of the cherubim, I guess if you want to look at it that way, fell on a certain spot, and it had the date and year, because where the sun travels the same path, it casts that shadow in that same spot on that day every year. So that was kind of like a commemorative thing, showing, hey, this was built on this day at this time because the shadow falls here. And that's exactly what you see in Egypt, I believe. Graham Hancock talked about that Sphinx. He believed it was originally a lion, and I do too, because the head is so disproportionate, but it's facing the rising sun. And he thinks that is like the Hoover Dam. It's a timestamp. It's looking toward the rising sun when the sun was rising in the constellation Leo. So they have this lion facing the rising sun of Leo. So it dates that back to around the Young Adrias period.
I love that. Yes. Actually, I didn't realize that the wing actually cast a shadow on that astrological tile that they put there. It's also, this is something else that's interesting about that, is that it's showing the constellation of Draco, I believe. And, we like talking about the Draco reptilians and stuff too. I'm not saying they're connected, but
I think they are.
On our government. And
Satan, the ancient twisting serpent, it says that he is the prince of the power of the air. And Serpent Mound and a lot of our mound structures, the astroarchaeologists have looked at a lot of that stuff and talks about a lot of those were built, in their opinion, when Draco was the North Star. And when you get into the Bible, it says, "Oh, how thou hast fallen, son of the morning." And I will ascend my throne on high. I will be like the Most High, because the prince of the power of the air, the dragon, once was, but he has fallen.
Oh my gosh. There's a lot of fallen angel symbolism, it seemed like, at the Hoover Dam. We were trying to figure out like what those celestial statues were. They're like 30-foot tall. They made is it copper or bronze? I think it's bronze actually, but I can't remember. But there's two of them there. A lot of Freemasonry symbolism there. Big time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to say a nautical star. It was more like an astrological star. But here's the thing about that is wherever there's what looks like a nautical star, kind of, which one of those designs does look like a nautical star. There's usually a stargate, like a portal there, is what I've been told by a lot of the guys who I have several recurring guests on my shows that have been parts of the secret space programs. And they say, well, that's where jump rooms are. Any building like a hotel, even the CIA in their lobby, they have a big picture of this nautical star in their lobby, like in tile. And they say that anywhere there's one of those, it's like a marker for where the jump rooms are and the stargates are right there. So keep your eye out for those.
Oh, yeah. Even like the ancient hieroglyphs and pictorials, anytime you see those spirals, that's an ancient depiction of a jump gate, a portal, or whatever you want to call that. Yeah. Nothing new is under the sun, once again.
They're all over the world too, man. And they come up more often than not in my conversations that I have and some of my data for some of the targets that I'm given and stuff. So it's fascinating to me. And I find it also really interesting that our government, like our government here in the United States, they do these rituals, and now it's kind of more subtle these days, I guess. Well, it's not subtle now, but it's been kind of more subtle. Like that ceremony they did at the Hoover Dam, for instance, where they did the dedication, the opening ceremony. It's kind of like, I compared it to CERN, the opening ceremony to CERN, right? But it was an exact hour, minute, and second. I mean, they got it down to like the seconds, to where they had FDR, president, Franklin Roosevelt came and gave a speech. I think they were running late that day, and it screwed up the rotation that morning. They weren't supposed to be late. They had a ritual to do. Somebody was running late, but the occult is very much deep into our government and into our pretty much our everyday lives, whether we know it or not.
Oh yeah, and like the Freemasons, a lot of that, the rituals of the laying of the cornerstone that you see depicted in ancient paintings. Washington even took place, laying the cornerstone, the Masonic cornerstone with the hidden message inside of the brick at the White House, and same thing at the Statue of Liberty. So you had this over and over again, and even the ceremony we do for the newly elected president, that is an ancient Egyptian ceremony. Because they believed that the kings were god kings, that Osiris, they would do this ritual, and they would do it in this temple of Isis, and it was in front of the phallic obelisk, and that the sun would travel into the womb of Isis while he was in there doing his rites, and it would impregnate the temple, and then he would invite Osiris to possess him, basically, and he would rule through this king, kind of like I talked about the Deuteronomy 32, the spirit behind the ruler pulling the strings kind of thing. But that's how Washington's laid out. You have this obelisk, you have this reflection pool that is a vaginal channel, and leading to the Capitol, where there's this huge dome. It's the womb, and he's in there doing his rites and things, and then that's after all that's over with. That's when he actually goes in front of the people and stands there and gives his acceptance speech and all that stuff. But all that stuff, nothing new is under the sun, once again.
Oh my gosh, his body has been taken over. Man, that is wild. And all the state capitals, I don't know about all over the country, but I know here in Georgia we have a dome over our state capitol as well. It's actually lined with gold. We have the gold dome, the golden womb in
Nice.
Georgia. Yeah, it's golden, it's fancy. I used to work there for 20 years. So yeah, wow. Interesting stuff, man. That is, getting to like a darker side of it, even darker side of it. I know I don't like getting too dark usually, but
You gotta lower your voice.
gotta lower your voice. You got real dark. The dark side. Yeah. We've got things like talking about having your body taken over and stuff like that too. Is I mentioned the celebrity elites and stuff. They've got this thing called what is that thing called? The vril lizard. Okay. And that's actually like a physical representation of having something like a parasite this is a rumor, y'all. I don't know for sure. I'm just saying this is just for entertainment purposes only.
Oh, is this the eye thing?
The eye thing. Yeah. They have a little parasite that I had someone that came on my show. Daryl James came on my show. He was in the U.S. Navy and actually signed up to be a part of the secret space program at some point and spent a lot of years there. And he had an incident where he was pretty much kind of held down. He had been out drinking one night and talked about how they were trying to put a vril in his eye. And this is a parasite. It's like a little worm, is what it looks like. And that's where you get the black eye club and all that kind of stuff. That's what they say. It's a rumor, but that's kind of like a physical representation of a parasite taking over a host body. We got all these shows and movies on TV and in the theater talking about that kind of stuff, right? Like the alien takeovers and people's bodies being taken over by something demonic, like a demonic parasite, basically.
Wait, remember what was that? The original Aliens movie? That crab-looking worm thing jumped on people's face.
Face hugger.
And would insert in their mouth and impregnate them or take over their body that way.
Yeah.
And did you say it was a vril?
Vril. It's called a vril. Vril.
Yeah, that goes back. That means sperm.
Oh yeah.
If you look it up, yeah, because it's like the Knights Templar and the Holy Grail lingo and stuff. How they talk about the vril. Don't spill the vril.
Oh.
It was talking about the man's seed.
Wow. Well, maybe this is like the reptilian seed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seed of the serpent.
Oh wow! I learn something new every show. I swear I do.
Well, I learned that from shoot. He's an anthropologist. Love his work, but he talks about the dragon court a lot and his deep dive to all that stuff. I forget it. I forgot his name. I always forget it, but I always think of it after the show. But I've mentioned him a couple times. But really bright guy. He talks about the vril. That was something even the Nazis and stuff talked about.
Well, they actually have what's called the Vril Society, and I've been told that the Vril Society actually, it's kind of an important topic. I've actually been encouraged to talk about it, and then I've also been discouraged to talk about it by other people. For whatever reasons, I don't know. It's some kind of secret underground, like a secret society kind of. And
Robert Sefer. Sorry, it just hit my head.
I love it. You're like me. I'll blurt it out after it comes in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. We'll have to look him up. That's amazing. But yeah, talking about the Vril Society. That's is it Nazi? Was it like some kind of Nazi organization or something? But I think it's where they had all those women that had the long hair too. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And can't remember that lady's name. That blonde-headed lady was a part of it. But they were using weren't they using psychics or something to communicate with ETs or interdimensional?
Oh yeah,
beings?
they were doing all kinds of occult stuff. But yeah, I mean it honestly boiled all down to they thought like the Aryan race was like the Uber man. Basically demigods, the hybrid race, that they were the ultimate race. They were in a biblical worldview, they were the Nephilim, the giants from the golden age when the gods walked amongst men. And they were basically like the Tower of Babel. They were trying to open the abyss and get these imprisoned watchers out again to try to get a return back to the golden age. And they thought that their vril, their seed, was a superior race from this golden age. So they were trying to do all these occult practices to bring back these gods from that time and reestablish their uber man, their superior race, who they believed at the time were blonde-haired, blue-eyed race.
Okay, well, this all connects to the giant of Kandahar. Like I told you, that data that I got was like cloning, getting a sample for cloning purposes, cloning the giants. I've talked about the giants that are in stasis potentially, that are encased, I guess you call it, like all over the world, basically. Giants awakening today, and we got the whole issue of like CERN, all these large hadron colliders, like large ion colliders that are admittedly all over the world. We have several down here in the South.
There's one in Tennessee.
There's one up near where you live, actually.
Yeah,
at
Oak
the
Ridge.
Labs.
It was the first one, but it's a small scale.
Mm-hmm. The Large Ion Collider, they actually have a program called ALICE there at Oak Ridge, and they work, admittedly, you can go to their website, they admittedly
Down the rabbit
work.
hole. How funny.
Yeah, they go down, exactly. Why would they name it ALICE? Okay, but they work directly with CERN as a sister project. I've even been told there could be one in Atlanta as well. Underneath downtown Atlanta, there's a large ion collider, or I don't know if it's a large hadron collider. I think it's a large ion collider, there's obviously a difference there.
Yeah.
I don't know the technicalities of it, but some kind of a difference, but it's also the same. And I've heard rumors again, that when that thing was turned on in Atlanta, that some entities came out of it. And I remember I was living in downtown Atlanta at the time, in the early 2000s. I was going to college, Georgia State down there, and I was working as well. But crime got excessively high down there. Like there's a lot of crime. There could be a lot of crime in Atlanta at times, okay, downtown. But it got really bad. Especially over near a particular college. I'm going to not mention which college it was, but robberies, homicides, self-deletions, if you know what I mean. I don't know, just everything, violent crimes basically skyrocketed after they turned that thing on, from what I was told. It made sense. It's like, why did crime get so bad? I don't know.
Even when it's like CERN, it's crazy. I mean, they might do it just for shock factor, but I've heard some people say that, but I don't think that. But like when they do decide to start this thing up, a lot of times there's a lot of like astronomical significance. Well, why do that? I think they're trying to harness even the Earth's natural energies and stuff to try to aid in whatever they're trying to do. Because I remember when we had that eclipse, what was it, last year or year before last?
Solar or lunar?
That total solar eclipse. CERN had been dormant, for a long time. I don't think they'd run all year, but they fired up that day.
Oh God, I know I think it was about a year or two ago, because I had Frank Jacob on my show. I had a show at Spaced Out Radio, and I brought Frank Jacob on a Sunday night, and it was like the next Monday they were planning on turning on CERN, and he is actually he lives in Germany, I believe, but he is a researcher on all things like Project Looking Glass, and I forgot what he called it. I think it's just Project Looking Glass, and you have to look him up online, y'all. Frank Jacob, he's amazing. And we were talking about CERN and just our government and the elite, or whoever, the controllers of this world here, this realm, using things like Project Looking Glass. And what is that thing the Vatican has? It's like
Lucy, named Lucifer.
Yeah, well,
telescope.
They got the telescope, but they've also got the chronovisor as well. And so that where they're able to see into the future, into the past. I think it's the past that they talked about. There's allegedly pictures of like Jesus carrying the cross and on the cross and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Which I'd like to take a deeper dive into that looking glass. The only thing that I've ever heard about that was, which I follow Trey Smith from God in a Nutshell a lot. He was kind of the guy that red pilled me into all this fringy stuff, especially the fringy part of the Bible. But he was a big follower of Kim Clement. And Kim Clement, he died a handful of years ago, but he was a pastor, but he was a proclaimed prophet. And he come from like South Africa and ended up moving to the United States. But he had all kinds of different prophecies that all come to pass. And he predicted Trump being elected before he died. and he said that he would be a 2-term president. He predicted COVID, and I can't remember. He predicted something else that was a big event, and even one of the presidents would reach out to him. He was like an advisor to presidents. They'd reach out to him for advice on spiritual matters and things like that. But when he predicted this one really big event, his daughter's alive, and she does a lot of shows and stuff like that, still promoting his work and showing his videos and stuff. But she had went on a show and said that once he made that one prediction, it come true. The CIA, FBI, everybody come in on him and was interrogating him, searching through all of his stuff, thinking maybe he was a plant and knew something. But he just told them that God told me these things. But he said, no, God told me these things. And then once they found no shady business about it, his daughter said that they invited him to be a part of Project Looking Glass.
Really?
And he turned it down.
Oh, wow.
And this was years ago.
They would have suppressed him is what they would have done. They would have brought him in to shut him up. That's what that would have been. That's wild. Yeah. All these projects just really, I am blown away by all the projects that our government has been working on. I mean, I know I've been trained in like remote viewing, and that's like Project Stargate, Project Jedi. I was not a part of those programs. Okay. I'm just a civilian. Okay. That just has a really fun hobby here.
She's a fed.
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I mean, if I were
That's the worst thing you can say in these circles.
I know, I guess so. I don't know, but I would, if I were to ever be, and I have not been, but if I had ever been like asked to like be a part of one of those projects, I'd be like, no, I enjoy my, doing what I do now, having a YouTube channel, doing things for fun, but yeah, Project Pegasus. Project, like we were talking about Project Looking Glass, Project Pegasus was interesting because I'm really into time travel. Okay. Like I love time travel. I've actually, when we were at the Meadow, one of the places that my team's research, I've heard a voice yell out from across the water source we have out there, time travel, like really loud one night. We were hiking into the Meadow, and a couple weeks later, I realized that was my voice. And it took me a long time to realize that was my voice, because I was like, I knew there was something weird. It was already weird hearing a woman screaming time travel from a place that was not accessible by foot, okay, to get over there in the middle of the night. But then to know it was my voice later on, it was really weird. So, but anyways, I'm super, super interested in like time travel technology, time travel, portals and all that. So Project Pegasus was one of those projects where they were sending children back in time to go talk to our presidents throughout time and give them messages, and to even watch. I don't know if it was Andrew Basiago said this, or there are other people in those programs. I have a friend, my buddy Jimmy Payne. Okay, he said that he was one of those programs, and he's claimed that they would send the little boys even to the theater where Lincoln was shot in different timelines. Like they would send kids back in for different timelines, and like in different timelines, different people were shooting Lincoln. And it's almost like they could change the timeline somehow by like who shot them and who they wanted to shoot him or something. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but at some percentage, it was like John Wilkes Booth. It was like 40% of the time it was him, or 50%. And then like 30% of the time it was somebody else. And then 20% of the time it was his wife or something, and it was just it was wild. And you could take any of these timelines, but they needed it to be John Wilkes Booth for like a narrative that was coming or something, like the controllers or whoever. So I know it sounds weird to people, but it is what it is, y'all. And you know what I mean?
The butterfly effect. You try to change it, but then it still comes to pass, but just a different way.
True.
And what's crazy too is I'm about to do a show on the Lincoln assassination. I found a lot of cool, crazy rabbit trails with that.
Well, you can add that one to your mix.
Yeah, government cover up, and a fall guy was inserted, and John Wilkes Booth lived a long, healthy life 40 years after he was murdered.
Oh man, that happens a lot. It seems like There's a lot of rabbit holes surrounding that assassination. A lot.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, there's been marriage records found in Tennessee. John Wilkes Booth married a woman, and then they think that he moved off to I think it was like Australia or somewhere like that. He moved far, far away and changed his name. But they found this will that was written out, giving out all kinds of his goodies at death, but it was to all of John Wilkes Booth's family. It was his wife was getting a bunch of stuff. His children was bequeathed a bunch of stuff. So they were like, "How come this guy halfway around the world is bequeathing all of his stuff to the John Wilkes Booth family?"
it's
So
like
that a lot of people thinks he changed his name and moved off, but he made sure to take care of them after he died.
I'm sure he was part of that brotherhood, if you know what I mean, with the put their hand in their jackets, the Freemasons. Okay,
Mhm.
and so maybe that had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
Wow, that is wild. That's wild. It's almost like the whole like the Hitler like not actually self-deleting and not dying and going to Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Or going to South America and living out all of his days there until he died of old age or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, it happens probably a lot more than we know of, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, everything is so choreographed, and it just the wool has been pulled over our eyes in so many cases, and there's been so many cover-ups. And speaking of the Hoover Dam that we were just talking about, the whole issue of like the man-made lakes that we have all over the South. You guys have Lake Norris up there in Tennessee. I love Lake Norris. I used to go there when I was a kid, and there's actually like an ancient Egyptian temple underneath the water there that was purposely covered up. You know, uh, 23 Indian burial mounds there, some kind of burial mounds. There could be giant bones in those. They were all excavated. Where did all the stuff go that was in those mounds? Why did they cover it all up? Just like with the Hoover Dam, they say there's like even it could be a pyramid under that at Lake Mead and stuff. So a lot of things have been covered up. We don't know. We've not been told the full truth on things. And here we are today, you and I talking about this stuff to plant seeds into people's minds, kind of to like do some more research on it. And maybe think outside the box on these issues. Yeah.
Question everything, re-examine everything.
Yeah, for sure. I actually had a couple of pictures here that I wanted to show to the audience tonight. And I know we were talking about Noah being a giant earlier. When we first started the show or mentioned Noah, how big would Noah and his wife have been, do you think, if they were giants compared to us little humans? Because I think we're the little people today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but if I was to guess, I mean, I would say easily, 8 to 12 footers. I'd say probably, probably 10 to 12 footers if I was guessing, maybe 15.
Mhm.
But I know that in North America, our giants are around 7 to 9 feet.
Mhm.
And I think that we are not evolving, we are de-evolving. Because we were once bigger, better, stronger, and now look at us. It's just entropy.
Yeah.
Entropy takes its course, and I think that when you look back, like far as like the Bible, it talks about before the great flood, there was the firmament, broke and released the waters above. And there's a lot of people like Dr. Kent Hovind talks about a water canopy theory, that this was once a pressurized system, and the oxygen levels were so much higher and more rich. The people were bigger, better, stronger. All the vegetation and animals were too. And we even find that in the fossil record. If you dig through the fossil record, 90% of the time you find whatever, fossilized animal of the ancient past, you find it in modernity. But the only difference is it's like 10 times the size. I mean,
Yeah.
we got modern turtles, this big, but they found fossilized turtles that's this big. They found an eagle's head modern day that's this big, but they found a fossilized eagle's head that's this big. So to say that the people were is not a stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, there are giant skeletons found all over the world. And
Yeah,
there's
and I
no
got a
doubt.
picture of a finger bone that we were talking about because
Yeah.
I got to meet Ron Wyatt, the archaeologist, the biblical archaeologist that found Noah's Ark and the Red Sea crossing and all these other places. I got to meet his wife, and they're from Middle Tennessee, and she invited me to her home, and they have their basement set up like a Ron Wyatt museum, and got all the stuff that he had found and stuff during his explorations. But one of the things they showed me was a finger bone that they had found on one of their trips in Turkey looking at Noah's Ark. And they found this city that was the legend that it was the place where Noah and his family built the first village and settlement. And there's this old ancient grave there that they had found that all the locals say that this was the burial place for Noah's wife. But it had been ransacked by grave robbers and stuff. But they kind of got to just digging around it, just looking in different places. And they actually found a finger bone. And it kind of backs up what we're talking about today. Take a look at this finger bone. I'll share it. It was like over 7 inches long.
I mean, 7 inches long. That's wild because, like, if you hold it, I'm holding up my index finger right here, and it's 3 inches max. Got to be, because, like, I've always been told, like, from that first joint right there up to the fingertip, the very tip is like an inch usually. It's kind of about an inch. Got like 3 of those right here, so that's over double the size of a normal. And I've got big hands, Doc. Okay, I got big hands. So that's over double the size of my hands. That's like, that's huge. Double size of my finger.
Yeah, I mean that's just wild to say the least, especially how you were just talking about Noah, and giants and the kind of stuff going around that, and then for them to be there at the site of Noah's Ark and this village that they said was the tomb of his wife, and boom, right there you go. It was this crazy long finger bone.
That is wild. How on earth did they get that back to the United States? They just kind of stuck it.
It was back in the 80s. It was back in the day. Yeah,
they could you could smuggle anything in back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. They have that. I mean, it could potentially be Noah's wife.
Yeah.
That's her finger, potentially. I wonder, what did they say? It was the index finger they knew for.
They didn't say.
My gosh.
They kept it in that little box right there.
Oh, is that a box right there? That like round thing?
No, to the top right.
Oh, okay.
You got that little nut or whatever that is. I'm not sure, but there's a box right beside of it.
What kind of nut is that? That is weird.
I have no clue, but I mean, it was honestly about as big as your fist.
Yeah. So
you got
to did you take this picture? You were there.
Yes.
Got to see it?
Yeah, I got to hold it. Got to look at it. I got to hold a piece of Noah's Ark too.
I have to tell you, you've got some cool friends, man.
Oh yeah, I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do because there's so many things that I can say that not many people can. I've got to hold a Nephilim giant lance. I've got to hold potentially Noah's wife's finger bone, a giant finger bone. I've held a piece of Noah's Ark twice, 2 different pieces, but both come from the Ron Wyatt collection. Just all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, I've had people bring me like this right here. That is a smooth stone from the valley where David slew Goliath.
Oh, wow. No way.
And I tell people, this is one of the 5 stones that David picked up. Prove me wrong.
Oh my God. To take down Goliath?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Put it in a slingshot. Bam. That's great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Man, you're very blessed and lucky, man, to be able to experience that and to share it with us. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Oh yeah. Here's another too, and this is from Ron Wyatt's collection. His brother, William Wyatt, gave me this as a present. This is a sulfur ball from Sodom and Gomorrah that Ron got himself.
What is a sulfur ball?
Well, when you get into the biblical account, it talks about Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by fire and brimstone from heaven. and sulfur, burns, crazy hot.
Mhm.
And at the site of Sodom, they have all these like petrified buildings and stuff just burnt and melted to a crisp. But when they
Yeah.
dig into the walls and columns of these structures, they find all kinds of these sulfur balls. And they smell just straight up like sulfur and will burn bright blue to this day. But that's what rained down on Sodom and destroyed it. So, I mean, you got a piece of biblical history here.
Oh my gosh. Hey, don't let the Smithsonian in your house, okay?
Right.
They come and knocking, lock the door, okay?
Mm.
Because they would love nothing more than to take pieces of stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah. I actually had a gentleman on my show a while back who said that he was like an anthropologist. He was a former military veteran. He was a military veteran. And but he started working at the Smithsonian as he kind of handled some of the displays. I think that he worked on the displays, and he told me that he was able to he handled the bones of some of the giants there, some of the giant skeletons there. And he came on the show talking about how a lot of the skulls actually had holes in them. And before he came on the show, I thought that he was kind of alluding to them having bullet wounds in their head. And so I was really excited to break it on my show. Like, they had bullet wounds. But it turns out he was like, no, they were. I'm not saying he changed the story or anything. I'm just saying the story was maybe told to me wrong or something. I don't know. But turned out he was just alluding to that, saying that he thinks it was from where they put a hole in the skull to stop brain swelling.
Oh, trepanation.
Trepanation. That's it. Yeah. But a lot of he said pretty much all the skulls there had a hole in them like that.
Yeah, and also too, a lot of people fail to realize some of these were from war wounds. Took a club to the head and cracked their skull. So then they shaved their head and they were still alive. So they just kind of cut them broken pieces off to try to heal that spot. And a lot of them you'll find they have these trepanation holes, but then they have a thinner layer on the inside that where it was starting to grow back closed, but they died before it did. So the hole was left. And L.A. Marzulli down in Peru found a mass burial site out there that was full of nothing but giant bones and elongated skulls. And he said that all of them had fractured skulls, that he thinks it goes back to a lot of the Native American stories, the war against the giants. And it was like a mass genocide type thing, that maybe this was the spot that either they took the bodies to and disposed of them, or maybe they invited them to a peace dinner or a trading session, and they all showed up, then they just killed them all and buried them there or something. But he thought there was definitely some foul play there.
It was a setup, man.
Mm-hmm. Like Game of Thrones, they invited them to the wedding feast and killed them all.
That's dirty, man. That's so dirty. They were just sitting there trying to be cool. That sounds like something my son would do on Fortnite. He'd be like, "Hey, let's
Tullies."
The Cullies. Oh my gosh. I watched my son playing Fortnite with his buddies, and I'm like, man, y'all are dirty. Y'all are dirty kids. But man, that is wild. I mean, some of the last giants actually that we hear about are the giants of Lovelock Cave, the red-headed giants here in the United States. And I know I was showing this picture of, it's supposed to be like a representation of the Kandahar giant, but beside the Kandahar giant are the actual skulls that were found in Lovelock Cave, and some of those ducks were actually found inside that cave as well in America, in Nevada. And so, but they were actually burned to death and smoked to death, I guess you call it. I don't know, in that cave in Nevada. And they were a menace to the local tribes out there, because these giants were taking the women and the kids and kidnapping people and eating them.
Yeah.
Eating them.
And it matches the wild man stories from Europe. All of your wild man stories is that there was these giant hairy humanoid people that at night would raid the villages and the towns, and that they would steal produce and livestock and women. And it's like they were like raiding parties pretty much. And a lot of the accounts that I've read match a lot of the stories of the North American Indians and their giants to a T.
Mhm. Oh yeah, there's actually one. We have one really well-known giant story out of Georgia. I'm sure there's more, but the one that I'm familiar with happened in 1829, and it's down in South Georgia at a place we call the Okefenokee. Okay, it's a huge swamp. It actually covers South Georgia into Florida, and lots of gators, alligators, and wildlife down there. It's actually totally beautiful down there. But back in 1829, there was a land, what do you call it? A land lottery. And they wanted people to come out and settle that land down there and start living on it. And so they did a lottery, and a bunch of families. It was kind of like pioneer days, kind of down there. And so people were getting plots of land around the Okefenokee, and there were some gentlemen who got some land. It was a son and a father, I believe, and they packed up. They wanted to wander into the swamp to see what kind of resources they had out there. And so, people were building their little cabins and houses all around and stuff around wherever they got their land. They packed up about a week's worth of rations, I believe, and decided they were going to wander off and try to maybe see what kind of big game they had out there or whatever. And they got out there a couple days into their trip, 2 or 3 days, maybe more. They came upon some footprints, some tracks in the mud in the middle of the swamp that were terrifying to them because they were like 20 plus inch human tracks in the swamp. And they got scared. They were like, what the heck? So they just packed up their stuff and they headed back out home. They didn't want to be stuck out there with something that was, 12 feet tall or whatever. And so when they got back to their home, word got out that they had encountered something huge out in the swamp. I don't think they saw anything, but they had these tracks. And so some trackers and some trappers from Florida. Floridians are always rowdy as hell, man. They come up, they just want to party and go find weird stuff out in the woods. And I love that. I love it. So they kind of like demanded those guys take them out there, show them where these tracks were. And they got out there, and they were confronted by giants. And the story always went, which was perplexing to me. The story was always told like Bigfoot. They encountered Bigfoots out there. That was actually tasked to me as a remote viewing target, a blind target, and I was seeing giant humans, okay, that were involved in this. And what happened was they got out there and they found that where the tracks were, and there was like a giant laying in wait for them, and it attacked all these men, and they unloaded all their rifles on them. The guy ended up ripping a head off of one of the guys and tore their limbs off. And two men survived out of 7. I think there were 7 men that went total. And 2 of them survived and went back and told everybody, we got ambushed by a giant out there. And but the Okefenokee attack of 1829, giant attack. I have a friend who is from the Okefenokee swamp area. She doesn't live in the swamp, but she's from down there. She told me, she said, well, it's actually a well-known fact with the locals that there's been a race of giants living in the middle of that swamp for centuries.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you dig through like the histories and stuff, so there's lots of Native American tribes that were giant tribes. One that really comes to mind is the Allegheny. And that's from like the northern Pennsylvania area, but they were said to have moved south. They got pushed out, but it's up there next to that. We call it the Allegheny River now, but it just got perverted over time. It was originally the Allegheny River, the giant river, named after these tribal giants. Okay. And yeah, so you have all these stories like that. I even tell people the Sitika is another race that the Indians talked about, and they called them the stone skin giants. They talked about their skin was just so tough that their spears and stuff couldn't break through it. And I've even postulated, could that be a feral giant? They just had really tough, thick, furry skin that was hard to pierce. And you have so many explorers like Amara Vespucci. He was an explorer, and he has so many accounts in his journals. Like one of them, when he went to Aruba, they called it the Island of the Giants. And the story goes is when he got off the boat, he was met by two giant women on the beach that he said on their knees would still be head and shoulders taller than them.
Oh, wow.
And they led them back to the village. And it was just a village of women. And they brought them in their tent and fed them and all this stuff. They said, of course, there was a language barrier, but they were, trying to communicate with them. They were giving them food and all this kind of stuff. And that the men were even planning to steal one or two of the women to take back on the boat, to take
Good luck with that.
back to England for like show and tell.
Oh, yeah.
And they said in the middle of their discussion and eating that the men all came back, that there's a huge group of them, that they must have been out hunting or something. But they come back home and found these men in their teepees with their women. And he said it was tense, that they were arguing and yelling and pointing. And that in his journal, he said, I had no idea what they were saying, but it was obviously a conflict. He said, so we started easing out. He said, and then they started following us. He said, so we just ran. He said, but they were shooting arrows at us, throwing stones at us, and all this kind of stuff. He said that they made it back to their boat. He said, but even while they were trying to sail away, that even the giants were like waist deep in the water, still coming at their boats. That they actually had to fire off cannon at them to scare them to stop pursuing them.
Oh my God, that sounds intense. I'm just kidding. It's terrible. They were intense. Sorry, I've got bad jokes sometimes. That is
Led Zeppelin. I think it was Led Zeppelin. The backdoor man. I want to be your backdoor man.
Yeah, right.
Them giant men thought the women had a taste for the little men.
For the little guys, I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they would have been like leprechauns to those women. Okay, I'm just saying, that's wild.
They're hairy babies.
They're just little babies. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of like what is that? It's like the little fairies that like will take the changelings. Like they take the human babies and they replace them with like older trolls and stuff. And so like the humans are looking down and are like, that doesn't look like my baby. That's like an old troll that's the size of a baby,
Dumpster babies.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that is crazy. That is so wild. There are so many stories of giants on all these islands. Like you mentioned the Solomon Islands earlier. And a lot of people say, well, the Solomon Islands were Sasquatch type creatures. Others say they're giants. And I just see
They could have been hairy giants, feral giants.
Yeah, just hairy wild men. Hairy wild men. There's so many pretty famous cases of like wild men too, all over. Like take for instance in Florida. We got the Kentucky wild man up in Kentucky. We got Tennessee wild men. Down in Florida, they had the Ocheesee Pond wild man, and other wild men as well. But that fella was found in the Ocheesee Pond and captured and taken to the state capitol or the governor's mansion. The governor's like, I don't want this thing. They took him up to the Chattahoochee Hospital in North Florida and in Chattahoochee, Florida. And he lived out his days there until he died. They say that he's buried there on the property somewhere. But he was a wild, I don't know if he was giant. He was a wild man, wild hairy man.
Well, see, a lot of people don't realize it either, but I didn't until I talked with Dr. Judd Burton. I'd done a show with him about a year ago now, maybe. But we talked about the Sasquatch prophecies. And even like in the European lore, they talk about these wild men and that they were basically sages, that they had prophetic knowledge and all this kind of stuff. And I talk about this in the book. I got several examples of these stories. They're just fascinating. But these people treated them kind of like leprechauns, that they wanted to try to catch them and get the pot of gold. But if they caught the wild man, they would torture it and do all kinds of things to try to get it to reveal future knowledge and prophetic knowledge and wisdom out of them, because they were like sages. But when you get to some of these stories of this Sasquatch prophecy, Dr. Judd talked about Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett both had documented journals and letters of what we would call Bigfoot encounters. And Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, him and his son was up in Kentucky, and that in his journals and letters said that they spotted one, and it charged his son and grabbed his son, picked him up over his head, body slammed him, almost killed him, but he fired off a shot and hit it, and then it run off. But then Davy Crockett, when he went to Texas to fight at the Alamo, in his letters that he wrote back home, he said that a hairy, wild man, this humanoid hairy creature, appeared to him and told him, knew him by name, and said, "Go home, Davy Crockett. You'll find nothing but death here."
Ooh.
And he said that he just struck it up to bad chicken, that he might have ate some bad meat.
Got a little
Yeah.
salmonella that night. He was hallucinating.
But he wrote
there.
that in his letters back home, and so it was documented. And he did. He never made it home. He died on that trip. It was like this wild man with prophetic knowledge came to him and gave him a prophecy and tried to warn him, but he didn't listen.
Golly, this is all new to me. I didn't know that they were seen as prophets and seers and stuff. I did not know that.
A lot of the ancient legends, they say they're like sages.
Oh my gosh. Well, I need to do a little more digging on that. And gosh, I'm gonna have to
Which
bring
I'll
you
tell
back
you,
from another show sometime.
A good book.
Here, let me make you bigger on the screen so we can all see it.
Yeah, The Wild Man by Nick Redfern.
Oh wow, very cool.
And he's from Europe. So a lot of these stories and legends are from our friends across the pond.
Across the pond. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I'm going to do some more digging into that because as much as I've talked about wild men, I've never covered that angle at all.
Which I don't know if it's just a European thing, but all the ones he talks about in his book, that's how they kind of referred to him. There was even a story of two brothers that laid out liquor, strong drink, with some food out in the woods, and that the wild man found it and drank it, and where he had never had strong drink before, he become heavily intoxicated, and that's how they captured it, and that they locked it up, and when it sobered up, told him that we'll give you your freedom if you tell us this, this, and this, and traded his freedom for prophetic knowledge. So they got him drunk and captured him and pried some information out of him before they let him go.
Wow. That's really cool. That's really interesting. Gosh, I can't believe I haven't heard about that before. That's so awesome. That is awesome. Well, I do have one more thing. I know we are about to hit the 2-hour mark over here on the show, and this is
Time flies when you're having fun.
I'm telling you, like, honestly, like I've got so many things. Like, I would love to bring you back on the show and let's talk some more about some of these things in the future. There's so much more we could talk about. But one of the last things that I wanted to ask you about and show you, like, I know I knew we were going to get into some of like the biblical prophecies and like or just some of the stories about like Esau and stuff. And there is a painting at the Sistine Chapel. And I know my audience will be familiar with this. I don't know if I've talked about this too much. I know my friends Jane and Garrel over at Midwest Night Watchers have shown this before. But there seems to be like in this painting, it seems to be a couple of Bigfoots or wild men on here. And I thought I'd show this today. Let's see. I'm going to have to take my ticker down there off the screen.
And this painting is known as The Last Judgment.
Okay. Michelangelo.
Yes.
Okay. What do you know about this? And what do you think there's Bigfoots in this painting?
Oh yeah, 100%. And honestly, a friend told me about it while I was writing the book, and I discovered it. And I took a screenshot of the zoomed in portion that we're talking about here and placed it in my book and talked about it. But yeah, I mean, it's plain as day. You got two wild men, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them. But to me, it's unmistakable. And one even has a single horn on top of his head.
It does.
And they're in a cave. What will we be talking about all night tonight? Okay, the lore and legends is that they are cave dwellers. That's how they travel and get around. And this is the last judgment. They are hiding from judgment. And I talk about it in the book. It's my theory that Michelangelo, of course, this is an ancient guy. You know, he was reading a lot of these ancient texts and stuff that we've either lost or just stopped reading because it's not in our quote unquote canon. But a lot of these extra biblical texts lay out these wild men. And I think that those two people are the serpent seed as they was depicted in ancient writings. Esau being one, and then the one with the horn, I believe to be Cain. Because when you get into like the Lewis Ginsburg Legends of the Jews, the Targums and stuff like that, these rabbis talk about Cain's marking was that he was cursed to be covered in hair from head to toe, and that he was given a single horn, and that this is why he was so scared when the mark was given to him and he was kicked out of the family. That's why he was so afraid someone was going to kill him, because he looked like this hairy beast creature. And the way the stories go in the Targums, you had this guy named Lamech. And in the book of Genesis, our Bible, it says one day he just comes in from the field and he has 2 wives. And he told his wife, if Cain was cursed, I'm going to be, doubly cursed, because I just killed a man. And then my anger killed a youth. And that's all it says. But when you go to the Targums, it says that this event that took place, that Lamech was going blind in his older age and had his son help him hunt. And on a hunt, he told his father where to point his bow and shoot. And long story short, they killed Cain.
Oh,
and
gosh.
in his anger, he's like, this is my relative Cain. And so for the mistake in his anger, kills his son.
Oh, no.
And the Targum translator even said, Rashi was talking about, he thinks that it was a mistranslation or misunderstanding, that when God said, cursed is the man 7 times 7 that kills Cain. He said he thinks that it was supposed to infer that no, the vengeance on your brother's blood will happen in the 7th generation. And when you go to the genealogies, Lamech was the 7th from Cain. So it kind of lines up with the Targum story.
Yeah.
So I think that's who those 2 people are depicted in that Last Judgment painting.
Oh, that is wild. I'll pull this back up here one more time. That is wild. I never noticed a horn on his head.
Yeah, that's the
My
2
goodness.
serpent seeds
Little antler.
from the Old Testament.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, that would explain why a lot of people, have in our conversation tonight has shown me this is why a lot of people do believe that Bigfoots today, Sasquatch today, are like Nephilim and, curse seeds, whatever. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, the more that I get into the research and talk with people like yourself, like the more I'm understanding that now. Okay. And I didn't want to go there back when I first started doing the research with them, just like forest people, and everybody has their own opinions on it, of course. Okay. And, but that is, I think that the biblical perspective is very important in a lot of what we're out there experiencing today. And just like last weekend, when I had Mark Maycheck on the show and we were talking about, they're all, there's so many different, just like with us, with humans, there's all different varieties and different beliefs and
Types.
cultures. Yes. Different types. There's some people that are very angelic and some people who are very demonic. Okay. And it's the same with a lot of these, the beings that are out there when it comes to the Bigfoots, the dogmen. And there's some, that will eat you. And there's some that will take care of you like a grandma. Okay. And so there's just a large spectrum, but bringing the biblical perspective into all this is rather interesting and very important for the conversation, I think. So thank you for doing that for us today.
You're welcome. It's just a perspective, the more perspectives we get on something, the better overall view we're going to get on something. And, I'm not saying that, just like I said earlier, a lot of people say it's this, a lot of people say it's that. I'm that middle road guy. I think it's this and that. So I'm not saying that I think that what I've talked about here today is the answer and the only answer. I think it is a piece to the puzzle that not a lot of people are talking about.
That's why we get along so well, because I think it's this and that and all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Too, I always have. I'm not just in the woo camp. I'm in the flesh and bone camp. I'm in the biblical camp. I'm in all of it. Okay.
You're in the pan camp.
I'm in.
Well, all pan out.
It all pan out. Not the Peter Pan camp. Okay. But yes, the pan camp. It all pan out. I'm in the I don't know what I'm doing camp. That's what I am. But that's awesome, man. This has been such a wonderful conversation tonight, Doc. I really do appreciate you being here.
No, I appreciate you and your time. Let me get in front of your audience and nerd out. So I don't get many opportunities to do it.
Heck yeah, man! It is amazing, and I can't wait to read your book sometime. I have not had a chance to read your book yet, but I'm definitely going to purchase your book, and I would love for you to tell the audience about your book, your podcast, your website, anything you'd like to promote tonight. Go for it.
No, thank you. But yeah, the podcast is a Prometheus Lens podcast. Anywhere you consume content, you can find me. Just search up Prometheus Lens Podcasts. The website is PrometheusLensPodcast.com. You can get a copy of the book off the website directly from me, get a signed copy, get some bookmarks and stickers and little goodie pack for that. When you go to my website, it's got all the information for my PayPal, Venmo, all that kind of stuff. Just if you're in the United States, send me $25 and I will get you a copy in the mail. But if not, you can find it directly on Amazon. $10 or $20 for the hard copy, $10 for the digital. And I'm currently editing the audio book, and I'm like 75% done with that. So hopefully in the next month or so, for those that can't read or don't want to read, I'll have the audiobook option for you within a month, I hope.
Is that going to be your voice narrating that audio?
Yes.
Book? Oh, yeah?
I've already read it and I'm just editing it out. So don't listen to it late at night. I've been told that I have a very soothing voice and put people to sleep. So just don't listen to it past 8:00.
Oh my gosh. You do have a good voice. You have a great voice. Did I tell you that when I first met you? I was like, you have a great voice. I think the guys were making fun of me for saying that.
Yeah, they were aggravating you about it. Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, Kevin was riding you.
I was like, you got a great voice for podcasting, man. It's great.
And Kevin's like, "Ooh, you got a great voice, Doc."
Yeah, he gave me crap. I remember.
That's what Kevin does, man. He rides everybody so hard, so don't feel bad. He's ruthless to everyone.
Oh, shout out to Kevin. Where the Weird Ones Are podcast. He's been on the channel. He's been on the show too. So
yeah, Kevin's awesome.
He's hilarious. All those guys are hilarious, man. We have a great time together.
Yeah.
This is the book. It's on the screen right now, y'all. Everybody who's watching the show, if you're listening to our voices on podcast platforms, please go check the description box, and I'm going to have links to the podcast, to your website as well, and to where you can buy the Epic of Esau, the book, The Birthright and Seed War by Justin Doc Brown. Okay, so man, please come back and hang out with me again, Doc. This is fun.
Oh. Yeah, anytime. You just let me know. I will show up and show out.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about. All right, cool. All right, well, thank you so much. And everybody, I hope everybody had a great time tonight. I hope you all learned a little something. I learned a lot tonight. And I've got some more research to do on those psychic wild men and stuff. That's wild, literally wild. And I want to thank everybody for being here, all my moderators. Thank y'all so much. And I will be back live on Monday with another fantastic show for you guys. So everybody, please stay safe out there and keep your head on a swivel. We are living in very strange times right now, but don't live in fear no matter what. Okay. And I'm sending all my love and light out to everybody tonight. And Doc, thanks again for being here. We'll see y'all next time. Everybody have a great night. Bye.